Hey everyone, it's Johnny from Ignite. Thank you for tuning in to another video. Today I'm going to be looking at the craft of writing, the secret to using any stimulus in the exam, making it work for your draft compositions. It's an incredibly important and useful video, I hope, and it's a topic that I think a lot of students need help with, just because this is such a difficult thing to get your head around. But hopefully after this video, you're going to walk away with a lot more confidence that you can walk in with an idea and draft materials that you have worked on over time and then actually apply the stimulus to those materials rather than getting flustered from what seems like a very difficult question, a very difficult stimulus. So let me introduce you to that secret. But before we do that, please do subscribe to our channel and click the bell so you're notified whenever our new content comes out. So please do that now for me. Thank you very much to all of you who did that. And please do, after the video, check out our Ignite website, ignitehsc.com.au, if you're interested in more comprehensive resources for the HSC English syllabus and beyond. Okay, so in today's video, I want to introduce you to the secret to answering a craft of writing question, to adapting your material to the stimulus, or rather adapting the stimulus to your material in an effective way that's going to convince the markers you've done the right thing, because in fact, you will have done the right thing. So what are the secrets? What are the steps? What are the processes? Well, let's go over the mindset most importantly. Obviously, the first thing you need to be thinking is I need to read the question carefully. What is the question actually asking me to do with the stimulus? And the stimulus may be a visual, it may be an image, or it may be an extract, it may be a quote. Okay, so what's it asking me to do? How does it want me to use the stimulus, if in any particular way? These are options that often come up. Is the stimulus a central element? Is it a key setting? You'll see this in the question. Use the following stimulus as a key setting. And then it may say to begin with a particular quote, or it may say to do that. Do you have to merely continue on from the stimulus? So they'll provide an image and say, using the stimulus, continue on using this as a setting. They may merge those two. Does your composition have to begin or end with the stimulus? So begin with this stimulus, but write a composition that you like. You may get a very broad one. Write a composition beginning with this stimulus, and it may be a quote or a visual, as I said. More often than not, there'll be something more to it, and it may ask for a significant setting. It may ask for this image to inform a significant setting in your piece. So pay close attention to all of that. The key thing with words such as continue, begin, or end, and note you don't have to actually repeat the extract that they give you if they're saying continue on from this. The key thing to note is that just because you have to begin or end with a particular stimulus doesn't mean that's the only place you engage with the stimulus. Okay, repeat that. It doesn't mean that that is the only place you engage with the stimulus. What do I mean by that? You want to use the stimulus throughout, no matter what it says. If it says to begin with the stimulus, of course you're going to begin with it, but do more than that. Establish what's called a motif, something that is recurring throughout. So if you create a symbol, or you take away from the image a symbol and apply it at the beginning and make that important for what you're trying to say, come back to that symbol throughout. Have that motif working throughout. That's going to constantly remind the marker that, hey, this student is actually making a proper effort, because you are going to be making a proper effort at engaging with the stimulus at hand. So merely because it says begin, and especially if it says end, do not leave the engagement with the stimulus till the end. You foreshadow at the start. It's called foreshadowing. You know how it's going to end. You know what the end is going to contain. It's going to have that connection to the stimulus because it's explicitly asked for that. But you're also going to foreshadow it, foreground it at the beginning, and weave it through as that motif throughout. That's how you do it. So no matter whether it says continue, begin, end, it is going to be popping up throughout. Now, how much should you actually engage with it when you do talk about it at the beginning or the end, for example? I would say if you're going to make an explicit link to the image or the extract that's been given to you, and we'll talk about how you do that in a creative way in a second, if you're going to mention it, you don't merely mention it for one sentence and then move on and go back to what you were going to write. I would say as a bare minimum, 3 to 4 sentences that unpack the stimulus in whatever way you've used it. So if you've taken something at its symbolic value, let's say it's a bird in the image, and you're talking about how the bird or maybe the dove represents the inner peaceful state of your character, then elaborate that. Create an extensive image or an extended metaphor you can establish, okay? So if you take an image, don't just mention it once and say, oh, he felt like a dove, he felt peaceful. You then need to go on. He felt as though he was gliding through the air. These are all the subsequent sentences, right? He could feel light, could feel the feathers of his soul flapping throughout life, okay? Obviously, this is a very extreme and silly example, but you see my point. You've got to add more and more. You've got to compound the engagement, okay? So don't just mention the stimulus once. When I say mention, don't just address it once in one sentence. You address it all throughout, and every time you do address it, 3 to 4 sentences of unpacking and elaborating, creating a nice image that is going to resonate with the reader and especially impress the marker. Okay, so we need to make the stimulus work for your draft, not the other way around. A common mistake that students are making is they see a stimulus that they think is very difficult, right? They think that in their head. They think this has nothing to do with the composition that I've been working on. Or maybe you've done a few compositions and none of these seem to work for this stimulus. Well, you're not thinking about the stimulus in the right way. You're not thinking broadly enough. So you need to expand your mind and you need to think, how can this stimulus apply to my composition? Not how can I make my composition work for the stimulus, because the stimulus has so many potential meanings, obviously. What means one thing to one person would never have even entered another person's mind. They would have thought, no way, it meant this to me. Okay, remember, this is English, lots of interpretations for things. You can take symbolic values from the image and that symbolism could mean a whole bunch of things for a whole bunch of people. So just keep in mind, you don't need to think too narrowly about it. You need to think, what way would be convenient? Right? I'm just being real here. What way would be convenient to interpret the stimulus so that it works the best way for my draft composition? Because that draft composition, you don't want it all to go to waste. That is demonstrating your skill in using the style of a composer you have studied. So you don't want it to all go to waste. You've thought long and hard about it. Do yourself a favor and use as much as you can by using the stimulus in the best way possible, but still making that proper and very real engagement with the stimulus. You're just opening your mind as to how you will receive it. Okay, so we'll get into that now. What are different ways of interpreting a stimulus? You need to decide, should I interpret this literally or metaphorically? Should I take this as a symbol for something that I can connect with what was in my story? Or should it actually be the physical setting, for instance, if they gave you an image? You need to decide what will work. But very often, taking a stimulus at its literal value is not going to help you. If you have a picture of an ocean and you have a speech that has nothing to do with any ocean, then having the setting of an ocean in a literal sense isn't going to help you. But as soon as you interpret that metaphorically or figuratively, and you start likening things to an ocean, I feel like I'm in an ocean. It feels like we have an ocean of people here attending this ceremony. I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I am losing my breath, like I'm underwater, right? I can feel the waves of life crush on me, right? Again, being dramatic here, but I'm using words that are to do with the stimulus, but in a figurative way, because that might help me say what I wanted to say in a lot more of a convenient way, so I don't have to just abandon everything I'd prepared. Okay, so what's the key? You need to give life to the stimulus. Give life to the stimulus. That's the acronym. Those stand for one word each of those letters. So let's go through them. L is for literal. Should you interpret the stimulus literally? If it's an image of an ocean, should I interpret that literally? Do I need the ocean to be the actual setting for my piece? If not, and it's rare that will work, they might give you a picture of space or something that you are not used to and that definitely is not catered for in your composition. That's fine. Don't think that you need to just write a completely new composition. That's the key. You don't need to think that way. You need to think, do any of these other ways work? Can I internalize the stimulus? Internalize it. Can the image represent a memory? We're going inside the character or speaker's mind, and now the image or extract is going to reflect something they think or they remember. Maybe they remember someone saying a quote that is the stimulus. So if you get given an extract that seems really difficult, perhaps that's something they heard in the past. So they're thinking, oh, I thought back to when my sister told me that. Straight away, you're thinking differently to everyone else who thinks that has to be the dialogue of the person who's speaking. They think that your speaker, your protagonist, has to have said the words that are in the stimulus, versus thinking back to when you said something or when you heard someone else say something, especially if it's of someone of a different gender. So if you have a female voice talking and you have a male character that you've planned to use, then perhaps when you get an extract of a female talking, that's them overhearing their sister, or they're thinking about what their mother had said about themselves or to them at once upon a time. Do you see what I'm saying? We're going internal. Now the words are just a memory, or it's what they're thinking. Okay, so maybe the setting is the internal landscape of the character or speaker's mind. That's really powerful. That connects to figurative as well. If you want to interpret something figuratively, that is metaphorically, okay, then you can start using lots of similes, metaphors, personification, all in connection with the stimulus that you've got, but you're using it in a figurative way so that you don't literally have to set your piece where that image or extract seems to point you towards. Okay, so again, if it's the picture of an ocean, you start saying, I feel like I'm in an ocean. I feel like I'm drowning. You remember, you've got to do lots of expansion on this. You don't just do one thing and then move on in your piece. Right? So you use it figuratively, I feel like, or you can assert it. I'm an ocean, right? I am an ocean. That's a metaphor, and I'm asserting it now, not comparing it. So you play around with those devices that help build an image, use lots of imagery to develop it, and that way you can just allow the image, remember, taken it whatever way is most convenient, to reflect the inner state of the protagonist or speaker that you wanted to write about. Okay? Last thing is externalize. You can externalize the image. I gave you a little example before where I merged these two, but if you get an extract in a stimulus, then that stimulus doesn't have to be what they're saying, what your speaker's saying. It can actually be something they heard. So straight away I've externalized it because it's happening on the outside. So there's a quote. I overheard the person next to me say that. I couldn't believe their words. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You could start, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, as the first line if it says continue from this extract. See, now it's not that person who actually said the words in the stimulus. It's just them overhearing it. But how are we going to make it significant? You still need to make it significant. It needs to prompt maybe self-reflection. And remember, it needs to be a motif. So later in the piece, you can say, I thought back to those words that I heard that person say, and they were starting to make more sense to me. Maybe there's a bit of character development, okay? So hopefully you see my point here. You can externalize it. If it's an image, it can be a painting on a wall. It can be an image on the TV screen in a person's living room. So suddenly that image is not the world of the person, but rather it's just a mere externality. It's a mere external feature in that world, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're moving it out, rendering it a little bit more insignificant, less central in a way, but it can still be central because of its importance to the person. It's got to have that impact. You've got to relay it back to the person's emotional state inside. Okay, they are my tips. I hope they help you. These are really important to me. Really important to me. I mean, I hope they're important to you. I'm not sentimental about it or anything, but it was a big breakthrough for me. Let's just put it that way. I was thinking about, look, what are the different ways that students can think about a stimulus straight away, and came up with life, had that epiphany moment, and I'm sharing it with you, and I hope you enjoy it, okay? Thank you very much for watching. Like the video, comment below if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I mean, come on. Subscribe, click the bell. You'll get notified about new videos. This is premium content. We're putting it all out for free. And if you do want to upgrade, it's not really even an upgrade. If you just want to get more written practical material, more quantity of this, go to our website, ignitehsc.com.au, and you'll find everything you need for the HSC. We are your trusted, I hope by now, trusted resource providers. Okay, thank you very much. See you in the next video. Plenty more of this stuff to come.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you do like the content, subscribe to our channel and we'll have more videos coming your way.
That's right, guys. Thanks for watching. And please make sure you check out our online resource database. We've had a team of state rank achievers and heads of English put these together for you, covering everything from essay structures and examples all the way through to craft of writing and comprehension skills. So check them out at ignitehse.com.au, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.